Now Blake Lively's side has this last-ditch effort. I feel like they're getting a bit desperate, that they have got to get the communication that you had, that you were part of the smear campaign. How do you feel about that? This video is going to get no reach, but I refuse to be silenced, and I refuse. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I have your favorite journalist and YouTuber here today, Kjersti Flaa from Flawsome Talk. Thank you for coming back to the channel, my friend.
Thank you. And you pronounce my name perfectly. That's amazing. Did you practice?
I have practiced in the past. I'm not going to lie.
Like I said on my channel, you know, I've been watching your stuff all the time. You're such a genius when it comes to these things. And I've learned so much from you. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, the feeling's mutual. And I think our channels go so well together because we're talking about similar themes of media manipulation, narrative control, and we have similar motivations to why we want to talk about this. But I bring the branding and marketing side and you bring the journalist side. So I think it's such a cool intersection that we bring.
Definitely. From my perspective, you know, I worked in the media for like 20 years. So yeah, I have my opinions.
Yeah. And actually, interestingly enough, I didn't realize, can you tell a little bit before we jump in about the other work you've done? Because I just saw your video where you said, I'm not just a celebrity journalist. I've done a lot of other work, and I would love for you to tell people about that.
You know, people know me from my celebrity interviews on YouTube because I started uploading them. And of course, the viral Blake Lively interview made people more interested. But when I moved to New York in 2007, I didn't work as an entertainment reporter. I was looking for stories. I did more investigating stories. I did one story on Scientology. So I went kind of undercover in Scientology church in New York, on Times Square. I went to the church there. It was a really horrific experience. It was so scary. But I did dig deep into the church, and, you know, they threatened the newspaper I worked for. And yeah, that was kind of, yeah. And the other story I was talking about on my channel was when I went to Madagascar for World Wildlife Foundation, and I did a story on illegal lodging on rosewood trees by the Chinese mafia. So I was trying to find people to talk to there. I was in the jungle for 3 days and I got really sick. No, it was a lot. It was more hardcore than doing interviews.
That's incredible. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I didn't know if I could love you anymore, but now I definitely do. That is absolutely incredible. Well, today we had talked about looking at how you've been brought into these subpoenas. And I'd love to start with that. What we're seeing is all these subpoenas that have been sent out. Now Blake Lively's side has this last-ditch effort. I feel like they're getting a bit desperate, that they have got to get the communication that you had, that you were part of the smear campaign. How do you feel about that? Did you wake up one day and you just see your name start popping up in these?
You know what? Someone sent it to me, someone from my channel. They were like, hi, do you know you're mentioned in all the subpoenas? And I was like, what? No. And then I found it. And I thought it was only one of them who was sent to someone that worked for Wayfarer. And then I read the little note saying that we want all your communication and emails and whatever with Kjersti Flaa. And I was like, what? And then I talked about it on my channel, and someone said to me, you know, you're in all the subpoenas that sent to Justin Baldoni's team. And I was like, no, I didn't even know that. So yeah, they're really desperately hoping to find a connection there, because I think if, you know, for them, that is like their final hope in trying to prove there was a smear campaign. Because if they could link me to them, that would be like, you know, magic for them. And of course, they're not going to find anything. Yeah. And the thing is, I find it so interesting that they keep asking for that, or keep believing that that could have happened, since, you know, the way that I'm talking about this so openly on my channel all the time. If I was connected to their team, I mean, I would be a complete psychopath if I could just sit there and pretend like, yeah, I had nothing to do with it, just sit and lie every day. So yeah. And the other thing is, it's just so impossible to imagine that I would have worked with them. Like, how would they have known that I had an interview from 2016 with Blake Lively and be like, hey, I heard through the grapevine that you had a bad experience with Blake Lively. Can you post that interview? I mean, it's just so ridiculous.
So bizarre. It makes no sense. And I think what a lot of the discourse online right now has been, they're just going scorched earth. They're desperate. They're fishing for anything at this point now. But do you think this is just showing that they actually don't have anything? They still don't have anything. So they're still searching.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw lately, I'm going to talk about that on my show today, but one of the people who actually sent a letter to the judge, not those three organizations, but the one single person, did you see that? She's an attorney, and she was like, oh, I'm also a survivor of SH, and you need to put in place this new law, this Me Too law, that supposedly is just, that is just efficient in California, but they want to use it in New York. And she sent a letter to the judge explaining, how she's also a survivor. It turns out, I don't know, do you know this? It turns out that she was sued back for defamation when she sued her professor for SH.
No.
And the thing is, she ended up having to pay him because he proved that they had a relationship for 11 years. And she was married at the time, so she was cheating on her husband with her professor. And then he dumped her after 11 years, and then she sued him. And it's all there. Someone made an entire video showing all the legal papers. So those are the kind of people that Blake Lively gets to come out and support her. And so I think that it's just like these things, it just like keeps piling up, and I'm like, it can't get worse, and then it gets worse. It's just like, it's crazy.
I keep saying the same thing. It can't get worse, and then it does. So everyone's going to have to watch, subscribe, and wait for your video in regards to that, because that is absolutely wild.
Yeah.
And so these are the people she's getting to support her, yet so far we haven't seen any proof. Do you think that if she did have proof, like that smoking gun, we would have seen it by now? What are your thoughts?
Why would she save that smoking gun? It makes no sense to me that she would have a smoking gun anywhere. I mean, she's filed like motions to dismiss, I don't know how many times now, but if she had a smoking gun, we would have seen it. And those two witnesses that she has, that she's calling, I think those are the ones she calls her smoking gun, which are her two co-stars who hasn't come out and said anything. I mean, it is embarrassing, I think.
And what do you think, because from your past as a journalist, how do you think journalists and publications are playing a role in this as well? Like, that are really setting her up, Blake, still, of being the victim, because they're still running with this. And I know you have a lot to say because you've been talking about this on your channel.
Yeah, I find it so surprising that they are still going with that narrative. As you said, every time I see a new article about it, and especially that they really want to make it political. Yes. They want to make this like a right-wing movement against women. And I think, of course, they're always using Candace Owens as an example because she's been very active, and Megyn Kelly, and they forget about all the other people, all the other women that are not extreme conservatives that are talking about this. So I don't know what it is, what their agenda here is, but there are, like you were talking about on my channel, all these deep connections and power plays. But coming from my, background as a journalist, this has been a real shock to me. And of course, the fact that New York Times did that article about Blake Lively, the big expose that mentioned me without contacting me beforehand, I was so shocked by that. And the fact that they refused to correct it. And I said, what are you going to do about this? And I was asking for a correction, and they said, we can't give you a correction. We can put your statement in here. And of course, I understand why. It's because that will, that would really make their article weak.
That's true.
If they had to correct anything in that article, that would make it weaker, and people would start doubting everything else in the article, which is why when I read it the first time, I was like, I was looking at everything, and I have to admit that I was like, what in this article is actually true? Because I knew that they were lying about me. So I was like, I don't know if I believe any of this. And of course, 1 week later, we saw that a lot of the things were completely taken out of context and cherry picked and whatever. But I have to say that was like a really big disappointment for me to see that New York Times did that, and they didn't own up to it.
Mm-hmm. And being a journalist, I'm imagining that like stings a little bit deeper because that's your field and something you were obviously very passionate about.
Of course. And of course, you know, especially during the last 10 years when all this fake news and, you know, they're calling it not the traditional media, but what else do they call it? Yeah, anyways. So for me, I've been very passionate about that. And I think fake news is terrible. But now I've been kind of like, oh, wow, now I know what they're talking about because I've been a victim of that as well. And the fact is that when a news outlet that serious refuses to take accountability for something when they know it's a mistake, that is really serious, I think. And that's very damaging, you know? So yeah, very disappointed.
I actually have to talk because you, again, another video. I'm such a fan of yours. I watch all your stuff that you talked about, and I was going to make a separate video. And then I thought, no, I'll just ask you about this, about the incongruence in what the media is pushing for, because the media pushed that, you know, Justin's a creep. He was smelling her. He said she smells good. Oh, he's such a creep. And the media pushed that. But now the media is pushing a narrative for Blake of she smells so good and she wants people to smell her. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh,
this is wild.
God. That's one of those situations or that one of those moments when you read that and you're like, it can't get worse, and then it does. Like you're saying, like now she has a mist that she's trying to sell in the middle of this when she sued him for smelling her.
Is that wild?
You can't make it up. No, I mean, it's so insane to me that, you know, it's just like tone deaf. Like everything that she did during the promotion is tone deaf. And I think, like we talked about on my channel, you know, this narcissistic behavior from these people, they don't understand themselves that what they're doing is completely tone deaf because they don't have the capacity, the capability of, you know, looking inward a little bit and being like, okay, does this come off as okay right now? Like, I don't know if she had a contract with her brand or with Target to release that scent right now, but they should have pushed it. I mean, you can always push things. It's like, okay, should we release that scent right now after this Taylor Swift blackmailing story? Yeah, no. Maybe they thought that, oh, this scent thing is going to get so much attention that everyone's going to forget about that she blackmailed Taylor Swift.
Maybe that's the whole thing. We'll just focus on how yummy, as Blake likes to say, yummy she smells. And we'll just forget about this whole extortion of Taylor Swift. And I have to wonder, do the publications think like this is a lot? Maybe they don't follow it enough. They don't care. They just want to back WME, back Ryan and Blake. Do they not see the incongruence with this of she's suing him for saying she smells good. And then the one article you were reading, she's like, I have different smells that I have in all of my movies. But you had mentioned, she doesn't mention It Ends With Us.
No, that was, so I think it was Glamour, was it Elle magazine? I don't remember which magazine it was, but they did an entire interview about her smelling and her scent. And she talked about it like so pretentiously. And she said that, yeah, she develops each character from the way they smell. And she likes to layer scents. So people are like, oh, what is that underneath that scent? I'm like, I don't think people do that. And especially when they know they can get sued for smelling you. But
seriously.
But I think that has something to do with what you were calling, you know, what you were saying with flooding, you know, and also with them contacting Glamour or whoever did that article, that interview with her about the scent. They're contacting them saying like, hey, do this article, do this interview with Blake Lively, and you will get an interview with this and this big star that we're also representing. So I think they do a lot of deals like that. And as I said, when I talked about that on my channel, that interview that she did, that should have been marked, you know, that this is an ad. Because that was advertisement. It was 100% advertisement, the entire story, and they didn't mark it as advertisement. And that's really also really bad from a journalistic perspective. I mean, it can't be more marketing. Like it's a pure ad.
Absolutely. Right? In the middle of a lawsuit, like you said, it just seems, I love how you said tone deaf. Like they just are not, I don't think they care though, because now, did you see, oh my goodness, that Ryan had shared this screenshot of an email about this underdog?
Yes,
like and it's so inappropriate. It's like, buddy, your text messages are out for like your perineum and shit. And then you're posting, what is going on? I need to know, what are your thoughts and what is the craziest thing you've heard in like this case so far? Because it just gets worse.
You know what? I'm suspecting that they don't have the internet, so they can't read.
I love that.
They do post a lot of stuff on Instagram now, but I'm like, what are they? Why? No, the craziest thing. Oh my God! I think that Van Zandt lawsuit was just whoa, that was a shock to me, especially because they owned up to it and they were like, yeah, we did that. And that's fine. And that's a really normal thing to do. And I also think when Ryan Reynolds called Justin Baldoni a predator said that, but that's my personal opinion. So I can say it out loud and it's not defamation. It's like, what is defamation then? If you can say anything out loud that you feel, I don't get it.
It's wild. And we had talked about on your channel how some of the comments I'm getting now on my videos, because I've said that it looks like Taylor Swift was snubbed. There was the AMAs they muted when her fans were cheering for her album of the year, when her name was announced during the, like, all the nominees. They left her out of Jennifer Lopez's performance. They didn't say her name once the entire production of that or broadcast of that. And now I'm getting comments from people saying that's what she deserves because she supported a predator, and people are parroting that word predator. So you're right. What is defamation then? At the end of the day?
Exactly. And you know, that word has probably been in a lot of headlines. And as you were talking about, you know, how headlines, people read the headlines. 80% of people just read the headlines and that's it. And that's when they were like, oh, Justin Baldoni, what word do I connect with this guy? Oh, he's a predator.
Yeah.
And no. I mean, there's so many shocking things with this case. It just never ends. And I think that's why people are so invested in it, because it has so many layers to it. It's interesting on so many levels. And I think it's opening up to a side of Hollywood that most people haven't seen and had no idea existed. It's letting people, you know, get a peek into this power game and power play that's going on. And I think people are really shocked by seeing that as well. So there's so many things here, and how the PR game works, you know, these crisis management teams and how they are working. There's so many things here that makes people go like, what? And I think a lot of people feel like they've been tricked.
Yes.
And I think, you know, you've been served this image of people that you believed, and now you feel like, why did I think that Blake Lively was a great role model? Or why did I buy her products? Because, you know, now I see what kind of person she is, and I don't like her at all. And this is awful. And I feel like they fooled me this whole time and covered up her bad behavior, because that's what they've been doing for so long, covering up for her. You know, as soon as my interview went viral, a lot of people came out and said, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. She has the worst reputation in the industry and she's terrible. So, yeah.
And I think that's why they're coming so hard for you, because one, they can't control you. You're not owing anyone anything. You have your own channel now. You're not tied to Glamour or to WME or any of these productions. You're independent. You are saying your mind. And that's why they want to control it, because you're a risk to their narrative.
Totally. And I love it. It's amazing that I have my own channel and I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. I mean, you know this too with your channel. It's just great. And to be able to connect directly with people as well, it's so amazing. I have to say. And there's so many great people out there, so many critical thinkers out there that see through this. And I think what we see now is like general of the public, like everyone, I don't know if I'm like in this bubble that I think everyone sees the picture here, but I think most people do. And when you, especially if you see comment sections online, you see like 99% of the comments are negative towards Blake and Ryan. And then the media keeps reporting on them as they're just some like amazing Hollywood stars with these beautiful, amazing life, and that they're like good role models for us. And I think people are starting to really see through it, and it's very interesting.
It is. And I love how you pointed out the disconnect between what we're seeing and what media is reporting. And with accounts like yours and any other account that's really telling the truth of what's going on, that disconnect gets bigger and bigger and bigger, especially with their push right now of like, I just want to be a good role model. That's the newest SEO that we're seeing from Blake and Ryan. I just want to be a good role model for my kids.
It's too late for that now, after we saw that kid pool thing. Yeah.
I think it's too late. It's wild. Well, I have one last question for you before I let you go. And this is, because you have an experience and you've been in Hollywood, what would you love to see shift from all of this? Whether it's like from the journalist lens and how journalists are maybe put in uncomfortable positions to report a certain way, but what would you love to see shift in media and with the journalists from this case?
Oh my God, where do I begin? Well,
an easy question before you go.
Yeah. I've been a part of this really, really fake world, Everything is so fake. You go into an interview, everyone's fake nice, and it's so fake. And I'm like not a fake person, I would say. So I feel like I don't fit in. I never felt that I fitted in, but I just played my role, I've always been nice and professional. Like you saw in the Blake Lively interview, I was just sitting there, I was taking it and leaving and went home and cried. But, I just did my job. But the problem I think that we've seen so much is not always the celebrity itself, or her or himself. That's the problem, is the people around them that are, allowing these things to happen, and they're creating these monsters,
Yeah.
Because they are building up their egos. They never say no to anything, and they just, telling them how amazing they are all the time. They're protecting them against everything, against bad press. And, it's not doing them a favor. Let's put it that way. It's not doing the celebrities a favor. I think they need to take responsibility as well. As I've talked about on my channel a lot, when some journalist is doing an interview that the publicist doesn't like, or whatever, the studio doesn't like, they will just take your tape away. And even though it is their star or talent's fault, they will just say, you can't show that interview. It happened to me once with Michael Fassbender. He was so mean and rude to me in that interview. And I got home, and then they had called me like 14 times. I was on the subway, and they were like, don't ever show that interview. And I had to like sign things online. Yeah, it was like really, and it wasn't because of me.
Yeah.
It was definitely because he was just being a dick to me. And they didn't want anyone to see that. And it has happened to every single colleague of mine. They've taken their tape away at one point or another. When you're in this industry, is going to happen. The censorship going on is doing them a disfavor, I think.
My original career was in psychology. I was a counselor, and I had someone in my DMs the other day asking, like, what do you think it is that's going on? And it's very similar to what you said. I said, no one's told them no. When Blake joked about, I don't know the meaning of no, she legit doesn't. And some of the kids that I saw, I started out with children and youth. It wasn't just bad homes. It wasn't just neglectful homes. It wasn't just bad neighborhoods. Some of the girls I worked with never were told no. And then you have a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old that you have in your home that you had never told no to. And they're like a Blake Lively. And then they ended up starting to steal, cheat, do whatever they had to do to get what they wanted in bigger society. So they end up in jail. But I don't think she's ever been held accountable. Like you said, a lot of these people have never been told no.
No. Yeah. No, I see it. I've seen it so much. And I think it takes a very special person to maneuver through that. And I think if you take an average person at 25 and make them a big star, they are gonna, sometimes be out of control and just lose their mind a little bit. Because it's not, fame isn't easy to handle to begin with. Yeah. And then if you are a little insecure on top of that, which most actors are, You know, they need a lot of validation. A lot of them are open about it. Ryan Reynolds has said that he needs to be validated constantly. Yep. So it's a really bad combination that a lot of insecure people choose to be actors as well. And then they get into this like meat grinder industry that just turns them into whatever little monsters that they want to create that or make them into. And yeah, and it ends up like this. Yeah. It ends with us.
It ends with us. Yeah, seriously. Well, I think that's fantastic. It ends with us is the best way to wrap this up. But I just wanted to thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom from the journalist side and just from being in, like, you're quite literally in the thick of this. You're named in subpoenas. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Thank you, Ashley. It was lovely talking to you. I want to talk to you for hours. We need to do a live time when just like talk about this for a long time because it's so interesting to add your perspective as well. Mm-hmm. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Well, I'm sure we'll be back talking soon.
We have to. Definitely.
Yeah. Bye, my friend. What I found in your weight loss here.